Welcome to the Art of Pivoting Your Life, breaking free and crafting change. I'm Michelle Carboni, a clinical hypnotherapist and intuitive coach. You can call in for guidance and coaching on making a pivot in your own life. The number to call is 516-623-1240. As always, we have plenty to talk about if nobody calls in, but we'd love to hear from you too.
Today, I have with me Kimberly Mansfield, who is made many, many pivots in her life, and we're going to talk today. We'll see where this goes. I'm super excited to talk to her. So, hello, Kimberly. Welcome.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yes, I'm so excited. So I don't know where you want to start. I do want to give your website in case anybody wants to work with you. And it is skilledclarity.com. So skilledclarity.com. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and kind of whatever pivot you want to talk about.
Sure. It's just been a life of successive pivots, really, when I look back. Your invitation gave me this big opportunity to look back and really jot down, like, oh, wow, yeah, there was that left turn. And I, so I'm a divorce custody attorney and coach, and I coach nationwide. And when I'm strictly working on the law sense, I am licensed in Oregon, so that's there. But I am a first generation college student and a third career family law attorney. So I was late to the academic party, and I've been practicing law for about 10 years now.
Wow.
And I look back over, and the pivots to me. So first of all, pivots in my mind, and I think that could mean lots of things to lots of people. To me, they feel like slingshots.
Yeah.
Okay, they're like they have this centrifugal force that just slings us out into my, kind of to the frontier, right? Out of our comfort zone into new things, and that somehow they infuse me with energy and curiosity, fascination, survival. It feels very empowering to me. And that doesn't always mean it feels secure
Right.
or that I'm confident. It definitely doesn't mean that I'm confident. It just means that I'm going to go forward anyway.
Yeah.
And when I look back, I think the earliest, probably major, was in high school. I planned it so that I could graduate a year early. So I was graduating at 16, and I did. And then that was, of course, to go on to college in the fall, which I didn't
Oh,
because I had an opportunity pop up. It's one of those conversations when you go, hey, mom, dad, can we sit down? And it was right not long before I was supposed to start, and I got an offer from, I was riding and training hunter jumper show horses at that point, and I got an offer to assistant train for a really, really high caliber coach who was just top notch A circuit. And, I was young and healthy and had an affinity for it. So at that time, I just felt like, look, now's the time. Like, this isn't, something I'm going to come back to in 15, 20 years with this opportunity.
right.
So for whatever reason, they kind of nodded off, knowing that I probably would vote for with my feet anyway. And so I did that. And it was something that I did for a number of years. And I ended up getting injured. And that coach, that trainer moved to the East Coast. And I had the opportunity to go with him or stay on the West Coast. I stayed on the West Coast. And after I got injured and didn't kind of have that safety net of working with someone I trusted, I moved on. And I went through a number of things and did retail and managed and worked in the food service industry and such, and ended up living. I was moved. I guess I pivoted a lot. I moved, I think, 5 times in 5 years,
Oh, my
probably.
Lord.
Ended
Ugh.
up living in Southern California, and I then was in LA for a few years and then was in Boston for 8 years. And during that time, for about 10 years there, I was acting, directing, and coaching. And it was, I had certain goals in that. I wanted to work on independent projects. I wanted to pick and choose. I wanted to be busy. I really, really enjoyed the coaching aspect. And it was one of those things that you can do, it's a luxury problem. You can do it enough to burn out at it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of did. And it was kind of okay. I took some time off. I thought I'd probably go back. And I just gave myself a few months and really was like, no, I don't think so. So then I did pivot. And I gave away everything I didn't sell. And I flew back to Oregon, my home state. And I bought a truck and a tent. And I left. And I I ended up in Key West. I went about 5,800 miles to get from Oregon to Key West.
Oh my
And at
gosh.
that point in Boston, I had been doing some bartending, and I figured I should have a transferable skill.
Right.
And I got some really, really top-notch training. I worked in really high-profile, high-volume bars with excellent instructors, and knew that I could make bank in that field. And so when I got to Key West, I bartended down there for the season, and it's seasonal work. Destination hotspots are that.
Oh yeah.
And somehow about that time, I also became sort of a backpack and passport one-way ticket traveler, and just took off and did Europe and things like that.
And how old were you when you were doing all this part?
Late 20s.
Yeah. Wow.
And yeah, I was, I suppose most people do that when they're young. I never did. I've always prided myself on living an unconventional life. I have prided myself on being a nonconformist. I've never followed the conventional path of marrying my high school sweetheart or going straight to college, obviously.
Yeah.
Or having kids or that sort of thing. Like, it just was not my thing. I think I've always needed to sort of be on the frontier of my own life.
Yeah.
And when I came back to seasonal bartending, I ended up bartending then summers. Key West is a winter spot in the warmer climate. So summers in central Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks, for anybody out there that knows what Lake of the Ozarks is.
Oh yeah.
It's about 100-mile long lake in central Missouri, and it is, well, let's just say it's water sports and bar hopping by boat. So it is a crazy, crazy scene. And I did really well there in the summers, well enough to work 3 or 4 months a year and take the rest of the year off and travel and go back to school and start chipping away at my undergrad. But I almost died while I was there.
Oh.
And that was a huge pivot. It was a compilation of things. I kind of, blew up my body. It was allostatic overload on all fronts, my health, my well-being. I was working 110 hours a week. I don't even know how you do that if you do the math, but that's how it was, and going 7.5 weeks without a day off and things like that. Like that's what it takes to make ridiculous money that I was making in a very short period. And I did that, but I also blew up my system and blew up my appendix, which blew up parts of my intestines and wiped out my ovaries and various other things. And I almost died.
Wow.
So a few weeks out of the hospital, it just landed on me like, wow, I'm still here and I could just as easily not be.
Yeah.
And so in sitting there, and really giving it some thought, I thought, man, I'm still here. There's 1,000 times I should not be at this point. And I decided to finish my undergrad. And it wasn't dead set on law school at that point, but it was certainly one of 2 ways I was going to go after my undergrad. But it was just getting back to my undergrad. And so that was a huge pivot, and I thrived on the academia once I was really in it seriously and intensely.
Yeah. I think a lot of kids need that break before they go to school, actually.
I wouldn't see it any other way. I think that so many countries have it right. One of my besties who's in Brisbane, Australia, and I met her abroad when I was traveling, and we met in Scotland. And it's just they automatically do 2 years walkabout, right? They automatically take what we call gap years. And it's like gap sounds like there's something derogatory about that, I guess, in my mind. Is like, well, you skipped out for a couple of years. It's like, oh, my God, no, you actually got some perspective.
Yes.
You got some life experience. You met people.
Yeah.
There was independence. You had to make choices. And I think there was no other way to do it. I remember going to visit the law school before I went, and my dad went with me, and walking up to the law school, which again, first generation college students, and all this, that I don't think he ever thought he would be walking up, looking at a law school with his adult child. And he said, "Do you wish you would have done this, years ago?" And I said, "You know what? I am spot on time. I don't wish I would have done it 1 second sooner,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have been ready, because I wouldn't have made the most of it, because I wouldn't have had what it takes, and I wouldn't have this really broad, deep life experiences at that point to apply it all to."
Oh, yeah.
And I can't, I don't see any, plenty of people go K through JD, and do it and get there and do it fine. I often see individuals coming out and doing that and working in the same field or having the opposite case, and the lack of life experience is evident. I'm not saying they're bad attorneys. I'm just saying there is less comprehensive perspective
Yeah.
to sort of be able to operate on. And then it came around COVID, and I think we all pivoted, for COVID,
Oh,
whether we
100%.
wanted to or not. And in that, I've always just jammed on neuroscience and quantum biology and functional nutrition and integrative medicine, and all those things are just my absolute jam. I nerd out on that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So in really giving thought to how do you stay nimble, right, and come out of this with something, who knows what it's going to look like on the other side, that I really, really dove in and kind of merged that into my skilled profession and my background, which at that point, had been coaching in various capacities for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then 7 months into COVID, my super healthy, active, cognitively engaged dad had a quadruple bypass out of nowhere. So I came at that point 3.5 years ago to live where I am now as a 24/7 live-in caregiver for my senior parents. And that was a huge pivot, and it required a really affirmative pivot that I work completely remotely.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped away from trial lawyering. So now I am purely I coach humans. I coach them if they're in divorce and custody. That's certainly where my professional skills are.
Yeah.
But my skills of clarity, the skilled clarity part comes in because there's unseen forces, and we need to make sure they're not making our choices, because life's a lot funner when they're not, and life's too short not to love it, if there's one thing I know.
Yes, I
So
totally
that's what
agree.
I do now.
So when you're working with people that are going through divorce, are you working with the couple to try, like, sort of
No,
mediating, or are
I
you
am not a mediator.
okay?
No, I'm not a mediator. Couples can do that, but as an attorney, and coach. I coach an individual, and as an attorney, that would be a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So you can't know anything about one side that could prejudice the other side and then work with the other side.
Gotcha.
So I don't do that in coaching either. That is a very, very bright line for me. It's also part of what I can assure and guarantee my clients that creates a safe and confidential space.
Yeah.
Is that as soon as they've talked to me, if we've had a consult, I'm done.
Yeah.
The other party can't even have a consult with me.
Right.
So that's, for the individual's security, because you need a safe space.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you
Tough stuff.
mainly do with your clients? Like, obviously you're advising them on some of the legal stuff, but are you there, like, are you working through emotional things with them too? Or do you kind of try to stick with the more legal parts?
No, the two intertwine in my mind, but they're really, the stuff that really lights me up is really getting into the empowerment part, and that is a lot of perspective shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And the people come in, the two words I hear the most probably are overwhelm and powerlessness.
Yeah.
So we've got to take that back, and we do like opportunity spotting. So I do an opportunity audit and figure out where are the inroads to where you as an individual, you personal human in your circumstances, because it's different for everyone, where are the opportunities for you to take back your power, because people aren't that. It's just when they're blaming and shaming and finger pointing and putting all of the focus outside of themselves that it feels that way.
Right.
And I get it. And every single person, these are natural, normal parts of being human, to have all the feels. And they don't feel good, but have all the feels. The point is getting the feels out of the driver's seat. And you can coexist alongside them. And it's like people just haven't, not only do they not know that and maybe haven't learned that, but they haven't given permission to do that. And it feels different. I work from the point of, based on my geeking out stuff. I mean, I work from circuitry, chemistry, and linguistics, because all of those things affect the system. And as you know, I noticed you're a Marissa Peer fan. I am a
Oh, yeah. Well, I was trained by
diehard
Marissa.
Peer fan.
So I've met
My
Marissa.
gosh,
We're
that is like a dream.
yeah, like
Yeah,
I adore her.
she saved my bacon during COVID. That's when I found her, and I just fire hosed her into my brain.
Yes.
And hers is, the linguistics, I am, are probably the two most powerful words when used together that we have on ourselves, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
So I start extracting language that is detrimental not only to the case individuals are in the midst of, but to themselves as a human, to their health and well-being. And if we're affecting all those things, we're affecting their parenting if there are children involved. So taking words like this isn't a custody battle out of it. This is a family transition. We gear up differently.
Yes.
If I told
well,
you
the
to gear up for
energy
a
of those
battle,
words.
we bring the tank. Yeah, the tanks, the grenades, the infantry, that's what you'd bring to a battle. If we're talking about a family transition, what would we bring? We might bring movers, and we might pad the boxes, and we might, we just show up differently in every single word. People, I love breaking it to people, actually, but it takes it a minute for them to wrap their head around it. When I say your emotions are costing you a fortune.
Right.
A fortune, and that is economically and non-economically. So we've got to extract the emotional narrative and get down to the facts, which are your experiences and observations, because that's where the traction is. All your emotional stuff, we assume that this is hard on an emotional level for everyone. Judges do, courts do, mediators do, attorneys of all stripes do. But you have to draw that stuff, and it saves you money. I have clients. I had a client in New York, and I just remember shaking her head going, oh, my God, if I'd have met you sooner, I could have saved tens of thousands of dollars in the emails I sent to my own attorney.
Right?
Because they were riddled with emotional narrative, which cost tons of money for me to have to extract. And, well, I wasn't her attorney. She was in New York. But to have to extract what is actually traction-worthy,
right,
and what is emotional narrative takes tons of time. And sometimes it's like, where's Waldo? I go looking for the question, and sometimes I'm like, is there a question in here?
Yeah, and then it's like, no, she's just venting at this point.
Right. They're just offloading. And it costs a fortune. And she would tell me, I'm like, you need a counselor. And she's like, I can't afford a counselor. I'm like, okay, here's the way it works. You stop spending all this unnecessary money on your attorney, trying to ask your attorney to do a job that is not hers, and you spend it on a counselor, which I guarantee is half or less the cost per hour of what you're paying your attorney. And she just, I just remember her hands went to her head, right? And was like the tens of thousands of dollars she could have saved.
Yeah.
So it's that. I just kind of get in and figure out, where is the individual at? Where are their entry points? Where are their opportunities that are going to get traction fastest? Sometimes the tiniest shifts, the tiniest pivots really have profound impacts.
Oh, yeah.
And it gains momentum, right? The aggregation of marginal gains. It's like investing. A little bit bids on a little bit. And yeah, we've done things by habit so long that we forget there are options. But that's why you need support. That's why you need a thought partner.
Oh, yeah.
A blind spotter, a dot connector. Those are the things that I do so that people can get further faster without losing the substance.
Yeah, you're like cutting out the fluff.
Yeah, cut to the chase. I just think it disrespects my clients' time and my time if I'm sugarcoating things. And I always, from day one when I was attorneying, I tell clients, like, look, here's how I work. I don't sugarcoat things. I don't pull punches. I don't own kid gloves. And if that works for you, great. If not, then we're a dime a dozen. Find an attorney who's going to handhold. But I'm going to get you further faster, and I'm not going to disrespect your time with exactly fluff.
Yeah.
And once I survived and lived and got into all this, I really felt like everything that I've hard earned and learned in the trenches, I have a duty. My life has a duty to shorten the curve for others.
I like that.
So
Shorten
that's
the
what I
curve.
try to do.
Yeah. I like that. That's nice. Yeah. I'm all about that. And I love shifting perspective. I think so many of us get stuck in, whatever our programming is and our given perspectives and don't realize there's other ways to look at things.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's why you need those outside voices. I think my clients actually have said to me, like in tears probably, they've said that I see things that others don't, and I say things others won't.
Yeah.
And that you've got to, again, sometimes that doesn't feel good, but you know what? Things shouldn't feel good. We don't get paid to tell people what they want to hear.
Right. I'm here to help you.
I'm paid to be there. Exactly. You're tethered to legal realities. You're tethered to health and well-being. You're tethered to skilled clarity. That's why I call it skilled clarity. It's not, half-assed, pardon me, I hope I can say that here, accidental default clarity. It's earned and learned, and it is a transferable skill that spills outwards into life. This is people's opportunity to upgrade their life for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And that is not something people associate with divorce or custody.
Right.
But it is.
And
I want to change the narrative.
And since I know we're going to be running low on time soon, what guidance would you give someone who's like just starting the divorce process and like, this huge pivot in their life that's so difficult? Like what are like one or two things you would say they should keep in mind or know?
I think the first thing is the hardest thing of all, which is the second you catch yourself blaming, shaming, or finger pointing, you are leaving your utmost on the table. You're barking up the wrong tree. You have your eye on the wrong prize. And as hard as that is, because we are splitting households, right? I get it, and I understand the gravity of it, and I never mean to minimize or diminish or take away from anyone how it feels. But if you really, really, really want to do this better for yourself, for your kids, and that, you have to catch yourself on those. And it's hard. It takes time after time after time after time. But it will catch. I do it with myself. And there's things here. Are you kidding? You want a PhD in growing up? Go home and live with your parents as an adult and take care of them. And there'll be days like, oh, I fell for it. Oh, man, I took the bait, But I catch myself sooner. And I don't get as wrapped up. But it's the same thing. You've got to start on that. And two, get informed. It feels so much better if you just start doing some Google sleuthing in your state so that you're learning the verbiage and some of the words, what it looks like. Like demystify some of those really intimidating, the talk, the processes and all that. Get consults with attorneys, whether it's free or sometimes worth, paying for it. Read, check court websites. There are tons of information. Attorneys put tons and tons of free information on their websites. Familiarize yourself, and the ground will not feel so shaky. It's empowering. You will have higher level conversations if you are looking for an attorney or if you are representing yourself, which plenty of people do. And I coach a lot of people who are representing themselves, and I come alongside as guidance and support. And they're walking, they're the boots on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice to know.
Those are the two. Yeah. I mean, not everybody can go out and throw down, $10,000 for a retainer, and that's not the price of a case, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much. We're out of time, but I so appreciate
great time.
you.
Is that what that music means?
Yes, that's the Oscar music playing. But if anybody wants to reach out to Kimberly, her website again is skilledclarity.com, and I do post a video on YouTube of these episodes, so you can also find that. It's at the Zen Mind Show actually on YouTube, and we're so excited you guys joined us tonight, and thank you, Kimberly, for coming. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm at zenmindmichelle.com. Thank you guys so much for being with us.
Hey,
Thanks,
Michelle.
Yeah.
Michelle,
Great hanging out with you.
I want to thank you for everything that you do week after week. You do such a great job. You're empowering others and you're healing people, every week. And, I know we don't get a chance to talk. And I wanted to publicly say that it's been a privilege to get to know you and to see the work that's unfolding either on this show or also through social media and the work that you do. So thank you so very
Steve.
much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you next week, right?
Awesome. Yep, I'll be here.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.